Hi folks, to the Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about something that I think is a big issue, but I don't know. Am I just on the outside looking in on this one? But I see it as a huge societal issue, and is causing society to sort of careen in a particular direction, and not a good one. Now, just to illustrate the point, I'll give some examples. But overall, the architecture is one of ideological equity, where now probably a majority of the population have been encouraged to believe that everyone's the same. Now, I don't mean the same as in your human worth before God or your equality before the law or something. I don't mean in that sense, but everyone is actually the same. The only difference is your ideological positioning rather than anything else, like your whether you're tall, short, or athletic or not, or you got a great singing voice or not, or you're a hard worker or not, or you're lazy or not, or these sorts of things. Does one have wisdom or not have, and so on. So there's no difference between people. So, and just again to illustrate the point here, I'll give some examples. I was some days ago, I was walking down a busy street in the city, and there was just waiting for the crosswalk sign on the road, and there was a man there. I guess he'd be mid-40s, and he was talking to, clearly he was a schoolgirl, I guess 13 or 14. I'm assuming it's his daughter. And it's strange because he's talking to her as if he was a child. His speech pattern, his patter, his manner. He's talking to his daughter as if he was her age, if not younger. A strange sort of almost a strange kind of submissive sort of tone. It was odd because he's trying to sort of compensate for him being 30 odd years older than her. So in order to make the adjustment, he's overdoing the humility bit, the fake humility thing, where people end up doing this fake simpering as part of the humility ritual. But he's talking to her again as if he was her age or younger, but he's talking about adult issues. So he's talking about how his boss at work is, giving him a hard time, is a rotten, no good so-and-so, and he may not be able to, he may be late at home tonight because his boss wants him to work back or something, that type of thing. But talking about very adult concepts of work relationships in a work setting. And this guy must have been some sort of supervisor reporting to a more senior supervisor. So it's something that's beyond the comprehension of the schoolgirl. So he's talking in the manner of a child, but talking about adult, very clearly adult issues, and talking about he's got a female colleague who's been difficult and is doing some whispering campaign behind his back or something like that. So the schoolgirl, again, I presume daughter, was sort of treating him almost patronizing, like he was somehow a lost child that didn't know what to do or had lost his way. And now maybe that's the relationship that guy's got with the girl's mother, and she's sort of replicating that to some extent. I don't know, but it was quite sad to see a man of his age engaging in what really is an act of, I would think, brazen self-humiliation, all in the interests of producing this fake or this mirage of social equity. Now, has he been trained to do that? Does he actually believe in it? Does he think he's doing the equity thing? That's harder to say. And the snapshot wasn't a long one there. But you see this in other ways, and going to the a niece's high school graduation, and she's graduating from high school, and the senior high school kids are referring to their teachers by their first name, and so the high school council student president, or whatever they call, says, and I think I'll get Jane to come up here and say a few words. Jane is the principal, and they have this odd interaction as if they're all the same age, or the same level of life experience or capability or knowledge or capacity or everything, that they're just exactly the same, when obviously they're not. One person is a 50-year-old parent who's lived many more years of their life, and the other is a 17-year-old student. And this is very strange. Why would they even want to be considered the same? Because in order to be the same, the most experienced, capable, knowledgeable person has to lower their level to be the same as the student in order to get the equity thing happening. The student can't be a 50-year-old parent of 3 children. But the 50-year-old can pretend to be a 17-year-old student. So it involves this lowest common denominator factor for achieving some perception, as strangled as it may be, of equity. Now, and like in the business I have a share in, I constantly come across this where, we as a bunch of, I'm in my 60s now, but we're a bunch of straight white male professionals with doing high level intellectual property, intellectual type knowledge work. Are we going in to do particular work, and yet we're assigned the people that are assigned to do the on the company side, the client side, coordinate sort of they're supposed to arrange the room for us to sit in, and the meeting rooms to have meetings in, that they're like a liaison officer, but they or that's part of it. But instead, they want to engage with us and talk to us as if we're children. And I'll just to sort of illustrate the point. I was talking to the guy just a couple of days ago. He's a young guy. I mean, he's in his early 20s. He's not very bright, and he's got every sort of sign of a fetch and carry flunky about him. But he and he's got a very narrow sort of area of training and knowledge. But he's trying to talk to us about something he doesn't really know that much about. I'm not sure he knows anything about it actually, but and he's misunderstood the nature of the project work to be done. But he was talking to myself and a colleague, and he was talking. But this is the idea of lowest common denominator. So instead of engaging with us at the level that we're at, he was trying to force us to engage with him at the level he's at, but unnecessarily so, for no productive or worthwhile purpose. The interaction had to be at the lowest common denominator level, which meant we had to come to his level, not him come up to it. Now, nor could he treat us as professionals. You can say, well, you guys know what you're doing. You've been you're hired to contracted to do this. So, the terms of the contract are all written up, the CEO signed off on, that instead of doing that, and we try and introduce it like that. So we've got the contract here, your CEO signed off on it. This is the work to be done. Would you like to look at the contract? So again, no. And then the next step is they again want to, for some reason, it seems to be almost like a security blanket or something like that. It seems to be a strange thing that compels them to do this. So that the guy, this young guy, is talking to us about, and he's checking to know if he wants to, or pretending to check, do we know something in particular? So, and he talks to, I'll paraphrase, this is like an example of how he's. So, Billy Bob, do you know what a steering wheel is on a car? A steering wheel. And then he's doing the circular motion with his hands. So, do you know what it is, what it does? You tell me. He goes, repeat after me, steering wheel. So he talks to us as if he's talking to kindergarten children. And so, I was sort of looking at him, and so I let it go for a little bit, and then said, well, we've been doing this, between us, my colleague and I, we've been doing this work for decades. This is entry-level 101, entry-level stuff, what you're referring to. So I don't know, why are you even raising it? Like, what's the point here? Oh, but do you know? Can you do it? Steering wheel, and that's how the conversation went. So we sort of smiled and nodded and then got out of it as quick as we could. But that's the level of that's the sort of discourse that goes on. And I've noticed this time and time again that people are unable to make the adjustment. Now, to consider in a world of merit, I quite accepted if somebody was a, like say go back to high school or even earlier than that. If somebody was a great athlete, I would accept that they, did I want to be that athletic? Well, sure, but I wasn't, either didn't have the build or the frame, or wasn't prepared to put in the work, or so they got I accepted that they were more athletic than I was, or I wasn't at all and they were. So, I didn't even think about that I had to be the same as them, or we all had to come out, there had to be equal outcomes. It wasn't a thought that even crossed my mind. The same goes for scholastic or academic accomplishment, whether through school or in college. I just took the view that there was some kid, that this kid was really good at mathematics, say, or there was another kid that could. I remember this kid at high school, for example, he could read poetry, and he somehow could bring the poem alive in the way he did it, and the tone on his voice and the manner of the delivery, the cadence, the whole thing. I couldn't do that, but I just accepted he was just really good at doing that, and I had no qualms with it. The fact I wasn't any good at doing that, or nowhere near as good as he was, didn't mean anything. It wasn't like I needed to somehow find some point of equity. I didn't have to get him in front of me and try and humiliate him or something to create some fantasy of equity. I just accepted he was. That doesn't appear to be the case anymore. That sort of acceptance of meritorious differentiation between people, the participation trophy is the thing, but also this very much the lowering of the whoever is the greater authority, someone has the greater knowledge, greater experience, is older, or this or that. The requirement is that they must come down to the level of the lowest common denominator. So and I've noticed this in organisations too, where they say they hire a competent straight white, and this is particularly for straight white males. They say they hire a competent straight white male. They will, maybe in some executive role in the company, they'll assign some very low-level person to be their boss. So the idea is, we're going to humiliate you, we're going to put you in your place, we're going to bring it down to the lowest common denominator. That'll show you. Whereas the reverse, if say there was the black lesbian type who's being very difficult and has no competence, and instead they'll assign effectively a social worker to say, well, what other free stuff can we give you to make you happy? How can we redress the imbalance of centuries of oppression and wickedness and white supremacy and so on? So it seems to be that the more capable you are, the more there's a scenario where you have to atone for that by lowering yourself or being humiliated. If you don't lower yourself to the lowest common denominator, then automatically a humiliation process is put in place. Now we've come across this in the business. We'll have a meeting with the CEO and we're going through everything, seems fine, and then they'll assign the parking lot attendant to supervise us. What? It's we went to a CEO a few weeks ago with, what are you doing assigning the parking lot attendant? The parking lot attendant is a loyal employee and he'll only do what's right for the company. And so, that's not the point here. I didn't use these words. He's a fucking moron. He hasn't got a clue. He has no idea what we're doing, how we're doing it, or why we're doing it, or how to go about it. So he's the last person you would put there. So we had to stare the CEO down on this, but he wanted to do it. He seemed to think that okay, you're not going to lower yourself to a standard. You're going to operate at this high level of knowledge, work, and so we can't have that. It's not permissible here. So we have to, if you won't voluntarily lower yourself, then we'll humiliate you into that type of process. And I think this is a society-wide thing. I'm seeing it more and more and more and more places, and the same as 16-year-old schoolgirls that are like working in the local retail store. They look me in the face and talk to me and so on as if I was the same age as them. They don't come to my level. I have to come to theirs, and they effectively require it as the price of having an interaction of any sort. So, given this, and I think it's running in parallel to the jettisoning of merit, because in merit you have to accept people are different. There are people who are more capable or less capable, or smarter or harder working, or this or that. You have to accept that. Similarly, with say beauty, for example. There was a time when only the hottest looking chicks would wear the sexiest swimwear on the beach, for example. Those days are gone. There are severely overweight girls who are in terrible shape that turn up in the briefest bathing costumes that at one time only the most confident girls would wear. But this is now changed. We're all the same. I'm just as good looking as her. I'm so. Are you fat shaming me, you Nazi? So this has created many differences in many areas. So people are no longer cognizant of how they're perceived in these interactions, but it always has to come back to the lowest common denominator to in turn produce this artificial mirage of social equity. And I think it's causing huge destruction across Western society. You've been a Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.